Hello, students. Have you ever noticed that the first slice of pizza tastes amazing, the second is still enjoyable, but by the fourth or fifth slice, you no longer feel the same excitement? Now, to understand this better, we will be learning a law of diminishing marginal utility or the first law of consumption, where we will be breaking down this concept in simple terms by using real life examples and help you understand that why additional consumption is not always better in economics. So let us not waste a lot of time and get started quickly by understanding the law of diminishing marginal utility. So get set go. In this answer, we will be learning about the introduction, followed by the meaning of the law, and you will be getting examples related to the law, usually real life examples. Then you will be learning about the assumptions of the law, followed by the concept of cardinal utility, also total and marginal utility, followed by table and graph with its explanation, which is very, very important, and limitations and importance will be following it at the last. So let us learn the answer straight away. The law of diminishing marginal utility is one of the most important laws in economics. It was first introduced by the German economist named Hermann Heinrich Gaussen in the year 1854 and is therefore also known as the first law of Gaussen. He gave very important two laws of consumption. First law is law of diminishing marginal utility and second is law of equimarginal utility. Since we are learning this law of diminishing marginal utility, we are calling it as the first law of Gaussian because this was the first law given by him. Now, this law explains consumer satisfaction. It states that as a consumer consumes more and more units of same good, the additional satisfaction gained from each extra or additional unit keeps decreasing. So, this law is very, very important and a fundamental law in terms of law of consumption. In simple words, the first unit gives the highest satisfaction, but every next unit gives less satisfaction than before. Now, with this, we can understand consumer behavior and the concept of demand in economics. The book in which he gave this law is The Law of Human Relations and the Rules of Human Actions derived therefrom. Now, let us understand the assumptions of the law of diminishing marginal utility in a very simple way with examples of each assumption. Now, before going ahead, you might be wondering to explain the law why assumptions are required. Now, the answer for that is these assumptions will help economists to explain why the satisfaction from each unit of a good keeps decreasing. So, any law that you're going to study, not only just the law of diminishing marginal utility, be it any other law like law of equimarginal utility or going further law of variable proportions, you will be learning the assumptions along with the law. So, let us start the assumptions one after the other. The first assumption says that consumer is a rational man. Now, what do you mean by that? This law assumes that the consumer is a rational person, which means he makes a logical choices to get maximum satisfaction. Now, for example, if you are hungry, you will choose food instead of buying something else useless. You always try to get the maximum and the best value for what you consume. So, this is what the meaning of consumer being rational. Now, let us go to the next assumption, that is, units of the commodity are identical, that is homogeneous, or you can call it as same. All the units of the goods consumed must be exactly the same in size, quality, and taste. Now, to give this in the form of an example, I can say like each slice of pizza is of the same size and flavor. Now, think in the other way around. If one slice is bigger or has extra cheese, the satisfaction will change. The assumption says the units of the commodity should be identical. So anything extra or additional to what you are actually consuming will change your satisfaction. So keep this in mind. Going to the third assumption, taste and income remains constant. The consumer's taste, preference, and income do not change during consumption. This is the third assumption of the law. Now, to understand this with an example, say for example, you like chocolate and your pocket money stays the same. If you suddenly dislike chocolate or get extra money, then the result will be different. Assumption number four speaks about no time gap between consumption, which means the units must be consumed one after another without a long break. Now, for example, if you take the example of eating pizzas, then they should be consumed continuously. Like if you eat one slice today and another slice tomorrow, your satisfaction may increase again. Now, keep this in mind. All these assumptions that you are learning, you should actually make that happen how it is given. Then only you will understand this concept. If you go beyond, you might not get the pulse of the concept, what the economist is trying to make you understand. So, this completes assumption number four here. Assumption number five speaks about marginal utility of money remains constant. Now, what do you mean by this? The value of money does not change during consumption. Now, let us understand the same thing with an example. Say you have got 100 rupees. So, 100 rupees has the same value before and after eating pizza. Now, if you suddenly become richer or poor, your satisfaction levels will change. So, whatever the additional things you're taking shouldn't be taken into consideration. What was your money that you have taken, that is 100 rupees, should stay the same throughout the law. Then only you will understand the pulse of this particular law. So, any doubts still here when it comes to assumptions? Hope all the assumptions by now have been clear. Sixth and the last assumption speaks about goods are divisible. That means the goods can be divided into small and usable units. Now, if you understand by taking example, pizza can be divided into slices, chocolate can be divided into pieces, and water into glasses. Now, this law cannot be applied to indivisible goods like cars or houses. So, all these things you need to remember. Let us understand the law of diminishing marginal utility with a very simple example. Imagine you're very hungry and eating golgappas. The first golgappa will give you maximum satisfaction because you are hungry and excited. The second and third golgappa still taste very good, but the extra happiness is slightly less than the first one. Now, as you keep eating, by the 10th and 11th golgappa, you start feeling full, so your enjoyment starts decreasing. Now, after a point, say the 14th or 15th golgappa, eating more may actually make you uncomfortable or give you a stomach ache. At this stage, satisfaction becomes negative. Now, this shows the each extra unit gives less and less satisfaction. Now, which is exactly what the law of diminishing marginal utility explains. And when you understand this example, you also be very, very mindful about that the assumptions what we have actually studied, that is, there shouldn't be any gap between one unit and the another unit of consumption, can be understood here clearly. That means when you're eating first Golgappa, then second, then the third, you can clearly see what impact it creates on an individual. So that is what this law tries to explain. Now, because of this, now, whatever you're actually doing here to understand this law, we do this on a daily basis, but we never understand this, that we are doing it to understand the law of diminishing marginal utility. Now, that is the reason why this law is based on cardinal utility analysis. Now, what do you mean by cardinal utility analysis? It's a very important concept that you need to understand if you have to understand this law. So, the next slide that we are going to go through will be based on your law of cardinal utility. I would say not a law, a cardinal utility concept. With this example, it's very clear that more consumption does not always mean more satisfaction. So, this is what the real life example that you can experience according to the law. In economics, utility means satisfaction. Now, according to the cardinal utility concept, satisfaction can be measured in numbers. This means we can say how much satisfaction we get using figures like 2, 4, 6, 8, or 10. The higher the number, the greater the satisfaction. So the economist Alfred Marshall explained that the utility can be measured using an imaginary unit called utils. Now, let us understand this with a simple example. Imagine you're eating chocolate. The first chocolate gives you 10 utils of satisfaction. The second chocolate gives you 8 utils of satisfaction. And the third chocolate gives you the 6 utils of satisfaction. Now, this shows that satisfaction is falling in numerical terms, and we are able to measure and compare utility using numbers. Sometimes utility is also measured in terms of money. For example, if you are ready to pay rupees 50 for a chocolate, that amount shows the satisfaction you expect from it. So, the cardinal utility concept simply means satisfaction can be counted, measured, and compared using numbers. Now, to simply understand this in a one line form, then you can say that cardinal utility assumes that satisfaction can be measured in numbers called utils. Now, this concept play a very, very important role in order to deliver the concept of law of diminishing marginal utility. And if you understand this concept of cardinal utility, you can imagine that the example what we have seen of Golgappas and the examples that we have seen of slices of pizzas can be assumed in an imaginary way. Then you can just imagine it. Total utility. Total utility means the total satisfaction a consumer gets from all the units consumed. In simple words, it is the sum of satisfaction from each unit. Now, if you want to understand this mathematically, then total utility is equals to marginal utility of first commodity plus marginal utility of second commodity plus marginal utility of third commodity. Now, to make you understand better and simple, let us take an example. Now imagine you're eating ice creams. Now first ice creams gives 10 utils, second ice cream gives 8 utils, and third ice cream gives 6 utils. Now summing up all together, that is 10 plus 8 plus 6 will give you 24 utils. So the total utility is the combined satisfaction that a customer gets or a consumer gets from all the ice creams eaten. So that is how you understand the concept. So coming to the concept of marginal utility, it means extra satisfaction you get from consuming one more unit of a good. Now, in simple word, it is the change in total utility. Now, if you want to express it mathematically, you can express it like marginal utility is equal to total utility of current unit minus total utility of previous unit. To that, you have actually expressed there in the formula as TUN minus TUN minus 1. So just don't get confused. It is the total utility of current unit minus total utility of previous unit. Now, to make you understand this better, here is an example. Now, if total utility after two ice creams is 18 utils and after three ice creams it becomes 24 utils, then the marginal utility of the third ice cream is 24 minus 18, that is equal to 6 utils. This means the third ice cream adds 6 utils of satisfaction. So this is how you understand marginal utility concept. The total utility keeps increasing, but the marginal utility keeps decreasing as more units are consumed.